Now, today we are starting a new uh, section in the sense, so far we have covered money, monetary policy, and interest rates. And today, I would like to focus on the financial institutions, which is one of the key components of the financial system. Before moving to that particular topic, I would also like to bring this slide set back to your attention. Last week, I think I shared this thing on financial and economic news. I just want to tell you that we need to have some uh, touch on the day-to-day developments in the financial and economic environment. For that matter, I really suggest you look at financial and economic news. So for that matter, we basically follow the financial press. Now we all like news. I think everyone we would like to hear news, watch news, browse news. I think we all are like news people. Now one question someone would ask, what type of news you would like to follow? Most of the news we hear like this, right? Some gossips on the papers, especially in newspapers in Sri Lanka, you see a lot of news like this, which are not basically enriching or enhancing our knowledge, our attitudes, uh, or our perceptions, or our wisdom, nothing, just simply gossips. But what we are trying to understand is there are some uh, good sources that we can have some understanding about the economic and financial environment, which will help basically to enhance our knowledge, wisdom, and also our attitudes. Uh, and also, sorry, that will be really helpful for us in day-to-day manage of our uh, job or our profession. So in this part, I will be basically looking at the such financial press that we can follow. What do you mean by financial press? It's basically media uh, that is engaged in reporting news pertaining to finance and related matters. So those are the things that we would like to follow. Now, best method to, I mean, be on touch with the financial sector and financial news in today's case is actually web-based news media. Now, since communication and information technology is well developed, and especially during the pandemic, it has become really an essential element of our day-to-day life rather than just looking to physical papers or materials in similar nature. We can basically look at a web-based news media. That's really easy. Most of these news media, you can set up alerts, you can subscribe, and also whenever you want you can just browse and see what are these web-based news media. Now I would like to divide those web-based news media into two areas. One is international news web pages, the other one is local web pages. In regards to international news pages, I have basically reported few here as some examples, some key news pages in the global setup. And also I have provided you the link here. So if you simply click the link in your slide, those pages will be open. So one of the key international web pages is the Financial Times. I think it's a very famous paper and a web page that you can have news on many aspects such as world news, US news, especially because it is published in US, companies news, market news, and also opinions on the financial and economic. And also in this website, you might have some, work and career opportunities, even life and art. Everything is basically covered in this website, mainly financial information. Wall Street Journal, one of the oldest newspapers, financial newspapers in the world, Wall Street, again published in US. Uh, the web version is also available. So in the Wall Street Journal, you have uh, again world news, US news, politics, economic information, business, technology, markets, again, opinions, art, life, those are also covered. Wall Street is a kind of a very famous source of news. So that is another option. Reuters, I think we are familiar with the Reuters, right? You all might have Reuters next to your door. We are talking not about that Reuters. Reuters is actually a news agency, right? So this news agency, it also has a website. Reuters is very much popular for data, more mainly. They have a very rich database. In the Reuters web also, you will find a lot of information related to this financial news. Especially they have breaking news also. Breaking news in the sense every minute they capture uh, news all over the world, especially the financial news develops. Reuters also has a news screen, right? If you watch the Reuters news screen, in some offices, I know some places there are some Reuters terminals. You can see this information very real time and getting updated every time. CNBC is also a similar website for financial news. Uh, Again, similar information can be found in CNBC as well. Bloomberg. Bloomberg is one of the, other than the Reuters, Bloomberg is also a very rich data source. Even I think some banks, some financial institutions have this Bloomberg terminal. In the Bloomberg terminal, you have especially information on the markets, commodities, stocks, currencies, futures, and fixed income. For fixed income securities, fixed income means bonds and similar instruments. You find information on Bloomberg. A lot of analytical tools are also available. For example, in Bloomberg, you can basically get the yield curve, current yield curve, current stock prices, current commodity prices, currency premiums, and all that. Everything is available in the Bloomberg terminal. Bloomberg website, actually, you might not have that amount of information because the website is a kind of a open source for major information. But if you really need to have a lot of uh, granular level data, you need to have a subscription to Bloomberg. You have to sign in. That is costly, but at least if you browse Bloomberg website, you can get some key information related to global markets. Uh, Yahoo Finance, that is also a very important source. Now, we all think Yahoo is a kind of a facilitator for our emails and all that. But many of you, I think, might know Yahoo has a very nice finance page. In the Yahoo website, there is a small icon, Yahoo Finance. If you click it, you will go to a news page and data. Especially real-time market data is available on Yahoo, especially on companies, right? The stock markets, even commodity markets, oil and gold, those are available. And most of the stock market data and similar data actually you can download. If you click those buttons, that will allow you to download in Excel format, CSV format. In usable ways, you can download this data, which means some editable data. So that is a good advantage of Yahoo Finance. If you work on some data, you can use Yahoo Finance for sure. And also, in relation to broad central banking news, there is a website called Central Banking, right? So there you have uh, central bank news. There you find all information related to central bank activities, especially interest rate changes, easiness and tightness of monetary policies, policy reviews, and also central bank calendar. Calendar means what are the upcoming changes, announcements of central banks. Central bank information like governors and all that. Reserve ratios, inflation targets, all these are available on the central bank news website. Especially recent policy rate changes, you can have some understanding about the changes. Locally, I told you at the beginning, single newspapers do not carry much valuable financial news. I observe, that is my personal opinion. Even if you report financial or economic news in singular papers, those are very much biased. Those are very much into, certain agendas, I would say. But if you want to have a kind of a imbalanced view on financial and economic matters in Sri Lanka, I recommend you look at the English newspapers. So some of the good paper, I'm not promoting the paper, right? I'm not an agent or whatsoever, but I'm just telling you the fact. If you look at papers like Daily FT, they have very comprehensive data and information on the financial sector. Especially this Daily FT has some features articles on recent developments, issues, and related stuff on the financial sector. They have some data page as well, stock market information, bond market information, money market information. All these are reported. Daily Mirror also has some information, financial info. All these are actually you can browse on website. That's what I'm giving you. Link is here. If you browse, you can have a business page for most of these papers. Daily Mirror is also having a similar business page. Times Online, again, there you have a business page. If you click on to the business page, you will get financial information and economic information. Right? And obviously, I recommend you always browse the central bank website. Central bank website always has important information in relation to economic variables, especially growth data, because central bank is a repository for many data. Growth, inflation, employment, those data is captured. Even market information like money market information, bond market information, those are captured. External sector statistics are there. For example, uh, trade, uh, balance of payments, exchange rates, those are reported. Hmm. So I think it's a very good data source, and most of these data sources or website, as I said, you can set an alert even for the central bank. You can set an alert to your phone, and also you can subscribe to various social media, including Facebook, Twitter, and similar social platforms. Right. Now, with regard to central bank website, the most important thing I would like to encourage you to look at is the monetary policy review. Monetary policy review is basically the announcement of the monetary policy stance. I told you last week on 19th August, monetary policy review was published. I advise you to look at the monetary policy review. Were you able to look at the monetary policy review? What is your response?
Yes, sir.
You did it, right? Okay, great. So if you look at this monetary policy review, that monetary policy review is structured in a way that you can get some understanding about the economy and its future direction. For example, if you take the recent monetary policy review also, you will see the structure. What is the structure? First, you have the decision of the monetary board. Monetary board means the central bank's governing board that decides whether the monetary policy should be tightened, relaxed, or it should be maintained at the same level. Now, after that, after the decision, it will give you some discussion on the rationale, why this decision was made, what factors were considered, what are the key considerations, uh, what data have been utilized in arriving this decision. Those are discussed in the rationale. And then the outlook. Outlook means what is the future expectation of the economy? Where are we heading? How we should adjust ourselves? Those things are basically covered in the outlook. There is no segregation like this decision rational outlook, but I'm just trying to understand these elements. These are the few elements, key elements available in the monetary policy review. So I think, as you said, most of you have gone through the monetary policy review. Uh, we will take it at some point during this discussion, because we are starting the discussion in central bank today. In that discussion, I'll be basically looking at this rationale and why it has happened. And I think new numbers are there, isn't it? Right? As students, you should know the latest numbers in relation to uh, uh, policy rates, statutory ratio, bank rate, and all that. And the definitions of those, we will do it during our discussion. Okay?
Sir, the credit card, sorry, not the credit card. Credit card, if we do any foreign transactions, there is a interest rate gone up. So is that mentioned in the central bank? So how is it applicable?
It's not mentioned in the central bank. This
Circular.
monetary policy review. It's not related to that. I think that decision is by banks. Banks, they can take business decisions, right? But I think central bank has made some clarifications, right? Recently, I have seen, for example, whether you can do foreign transactions, are they prohibited? For those matters, central bank has made some clarifications. Otherwise, the changing the charges and all that, actually, those are bank decisions, right? It's not a kind of a broad policy decision. Broad policy decisions are made in terms of the key interest rates in the economy and whether the transactions are facilitated or not. Those are the broad policy decisions. With that, I think I think you have some idea about the financial press. I really recommend you look at the financial press uh, in detail. Uh, if you want, I can show you one of the websites. Can you see the screen?
Yes, sir.
The website?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So this is a Financial Times website. You will see this political news is there, as I said, and financial information, some featured articles, for example, how US payments groups ended up wrong side of India's plans, No one wants to go back. COVID scuttles IPO and debt roadshows. China international corporation braces fallout. DD data. I don't know. DD may be a company. So likewise, a lot of featured articles are there. And if you click on the tabs, you will see market information are also there. So these are some market data. Likewise, you find information in relation to the markets. And then if you, I think I told you this Yahoo Finance. So this is the Yahoo page. You have stock market data, oil, gold data, and also, as I said, some related articles. And stock data, as I said, futures data, currencies data, everything is available. Even cryptocurrency data, right? Cryptocurrency means virtual currency. Those are also there. And as I said, you can download most of these data points. If you click these, you get the details, and charts are there. Comparisons can be done. Historical data is available. Here, did you see the button download? Can you see?
Yes, sir.
If you click it, you get the data Excel. See, everything is available. Even you can do you can do your own chart if you want. Right? So it's a very good data source. So I'm just showing you these things because you might need this if you are working in a financial institution or a similar area. You might need those information. Let me also show you the central bank website important tabs. So in the central bank website, you have all this information in tabs. And also if you look at the statistics tab, if you click on that, uh, you have a lot of information on various sectors: real sector, external sector, fiscal debt sector, monetary sector, financial sector. I told you data is available. And also some indicators on weekly basis, daily basis, monthly basis, chart packs, all are available in economic indicators. And survey data is also available. Survey means central bank conducts few surveys. PMI means Purchasing Managers Index, Business Outlook Survey, credit supply, condominium markets, land valuation. All these are surveys. Data information is there. And also some international data. SDDS means IMF data template. And this economic data library is a kind of a repository for most of this data. Here you have this, you call it research database or data repository, data library. There you can have information for all variables, main variables that you need. You can download this data as you, for example, if I want to download money supply, right, I can select the frequency. Let's say I need data from 2000 to 2019. So here you can search what type of money you want. So I need broad money. I select it and I add it. Then you process it. Then you get the data here, right? So you can again download data into a CSA file, CSV file, or a kind of an Excel sheet. So I think if you look at this, most of the important information is available, right? So, and also the press information. If you click the press, there are a lot of press releases on the government securities, monetary policy, external sector, open market operations, inflation, PMI, etc., right? And even videos on monetary policy review. So this is a very nice data set repository. All the past press releases on monetary policy, and even the important laws related to the banking sector and the financial sector. Monetary Law Act, Banking Act, Non-Bank Act, Microfinance Act, Foreign Exchange, EPA, all these acts are available. And also, not only the central bank, there are important links that, for example, fiscal data, you can click Minister of Finance. For inflation, output and employment data, you can go to the uh, Census and Statistics Department. You also have the IBSL link here. International Monetary Fund, Colombo Stock Exchange, all links are here, most of the important. As I said, you can follow the central bank on various social media, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, LinkedIn, Google Plus, all the available. Right? I think with that you have some good idea about how to utilize these sources. Now let me move to our discussion today. Financial institutions, and we start with the central banks. Do you have the slides with you? Can you see my slides on the screen?
Yes, sir, we can see.
Okay. Okay. Now, among financial institutions, there are various financial institutions, as you already know, different for different purposes. Different types of institutions are functioning. Now, these are acting as agents to provide financial services for the clients. So, most of these financial institutions are providing some particular service or services to its clients for their clients based on certain financial products. Okay, so if you look at this list, we have banks, finance companies, leasing companies, primary dealers, money brokers, securities firms, insurance companies, pension funds, unit trusts, venture capital companies, microfinance institutions. All these are providing service to the clients, to the customers. Now, even a central bank has customers, but central bank's customer base is unique. Its customer base is basically financial institutions. It does not directly deal with the public. Most of the central banks, no, they do not directly deal with public only for few instances. For example, when a person wants to have some, exchange currency, can come to the currency counter. if they want to, if they are withdrawing their EPF money, then you have some link with the central bank. If you want to buy some publications, you can directly deal with the central bank. Other than that, central bank does not provide any service directly to the public. Their service is mainly in terms of financial institutions, particularly banks. Now, among these institutions, most of the institutions are actually regulated because financial institutions are basically fundamentally they act uh, to transact money or financial assets. So, for that matter, to ensure the confidence in the financial system and also ensure the safety of investor or depositors' money, there are a lot of systems put in place. The systems and frameworks are basically from the regulations of an authority. For example, if we are talking about banks, banks are regulated by the central bank. If you talk about primary dealers, maybe they are regulated by the central bank. If you talk about securities firms and unit trusts, they are basically regulated by a securities exchange. If you talk about insurance, they are basically regulated by the insurance regulator. So, someone has some uh, control, supervision, or regulation over these institutions. So, among these institutions, what we are discussing today is the central bank. Central bank is the apex or key financial institution in the financial system. Now, what is a central bank? We use different terms for the central bank. Sometimes we call it a reserve bank. Sometimes we call it a monetary authority. For example, in certain countries, you call it a central bank. In Sri Lanka, we call it Central Bank of Sri Lanka. Egypt, Central Bank of Egypt. Likewise, central bank term is used in certain countries. Some countries use the term Reserve Bank. For example, India, New Zealand, Australia, South Africa. All these countries they use the term Reserve Bank. Reserve Bank of New Zealand, Reserve Bank of India, likewise, but the same institution. Some countries use the monetary authority, term monetary authority. For example, Hong Kong, Singapore, uh, Bhutan. Bhutan, they call it Royal Monetary Authority. All these countries have monetary authority, but again, it's a central bank. Some countries have different terms. Now, in USA, the central bank is called as Federal Reserve System. It's not only one bank. They have reserve banks in every uh, most of the key states. For example, Reserve Bank of Cleveland, Reserve Bank of Minnesota, Reserve Bank of Dallas. Likewise, they have some 16 or 17 state banks. All are forming one particular bank that is called Reserve Banks Reserve System, Federal Reserve System of the US. In UK, they have Bank of England. In Europe, you have European Central Bank. Hmm? Those are different names. In uh, Nepal, they have Rashtra Bank of Nepal. Rashtra Bank means kind of a royal bank. Pakistan, they have State Bank of Pakistan. Bank in Japan, they call it Bank of Japan. In China, you call it People's Bank of China. And recently, if you look at this Afghanistan, their central bank is called the Afghanistan Bank. So likewise, what you can see, although various different terms are used, all these are considered as central banks, which perform key functions as per these definitions. So central banks are mostly autonomous organizations entrusted by the government to administer certain key monetary functions. Central banks' functions are related to or limited to monetary functions in the economy, and they are created by the government mostly as autonomous organizations. Autonomous means they are not governmental departments. Right? Government departments do what the government needs on a day-to-day basis to realize government's uh, agenda. So, in that sense, the departments are working under direct supervision or direct control of a government. But central bank is different. It's created as an autonomous or independent institutions. This independence is important for the central bank to achieve their objectives because most of the time central bank's role is to uh, ensure that economy is in the right track. For that matter, the central bank might need to take some decisions which the government do not like, which are not preferred by the government. So, in that nature, central banks are kept or maintained as independent institutions. It's a question whether it's happening or not, what level of independence they have. But they are created that way to have some independence. Okay, and they are basically authorities responsible for the policies mainly relating to money and credit in the economy. So money and credit is basically the key variables that determines the economic activity. In relation to those economic activity, the money availability money and the cost of money and credit is decided by the central bank. That function we already know from our last week discussion as monetary policy. Okay. So if you look at central banking, it has uh, short history. Short history in the sense central banking is not more than old for 400 years. It's less than actually 400 years. The first central bank was established in the 17th century in 1664 in Sweden, right? Sweden Riksbank is the world first central bank. It was established in 1664. Even before that, there were some, evidence for institutions similar to central bank. For example, the Netherlands Bank, which was in Holland or the Netherlands, was established as a kind of a central bank, but it was not a full-fledged central bank. Full-fledged central bank, the first one was the Sweden Central Bank, that is called as Riksbank, established in 1664. Then Bank of England is considered as the model for modern central bank. Now, in this left-hand side picture, this picture is the Bank of England. These all buildings still in the same way. I think they have restored it. If you happen to London and if you take the tube means the underground train to Bank Station, and if you get out from the underground station, you will see this building, uh, Bank of England building, very nice, elegant building, where you have the Bank of England located. So these old central banks at their initial stage, they actually were established as commercial banks. They were actually private banks. So, although we call them as central banks, originally they were like private banks for specific purposes. What are the specific purposes they perform? they issued banknotes. I think in our money discussion, remember how these central banks came into money issuance? There were a lot of private money issuers to prevent that and also to centralize it to make it very effective clearing. Central banks were established, but no one knew the architecture or the speciality of the central bank. So originally, that function was performed by commercial banks, private banks, right? So banknote issuance were one of the first tasks of central banks performed by at the beginning. And not only that, the banker to the government, they acted as the banker to the government. The reason is, I think I mentioned to you very briefly, during that time, why it was taken by the government was in dire needs of funds because most of the government, Western, these European governments, they were fighting for colonization. Even British people, Dutch people, Portuguese people, Spanish people, all these people, French people, all these people were into war between each other or maybe with the local people, indigenous people for reclamation or the establishing colonies. Uh, so that led to huge cost for the government, especially financing the war and people. For that matter, government started issuing money. So the central banks acted as the banker or the financier to the governments at the original uh, setup. Those were evolved gradually, but it was the original setup. Now, in the modern world, there are more than 180 central banks operating. These central banks have evolved throughout centuries in acquiring different functions. Now, if you look at central banks in the today's context, or also in a historical context to the today's time, you can see they have evolved with several functions. Now, the first two functions I already covered. They acted as monopoly of issuing currency notes and coins. Uh, that was their first task. And even today, governments are considering or governments have empowered central banks as the monopoly to issue uh, currency notes and coins. Monopoly means they are the only institution with that power to issue notes and coins. Then banker to the government we already covered from the beginning. Now today banker to the government is not the finance in the government, but other than that, finance even financing is also done some central bank by some central bank, but mostly government banking operations, account handling is done by the central bank. Domestic accounts and foreign accounts are mainly with the central bank, facilitated by the central bank. So, as the banker, they perform an important function. Banker to the banks. Today's world, especially during the evolutionary process, central banks became banker to the banks because uh, all these commercial banks and non-banks in their actions, you have to ensure that they are performing in a nature that does not affect the financial system or does not have any detrimental effect on the financial system. For that matter, central banks took the leadership in monitoring, in providing funding, in supervising, and also issuing some controls for these banks. They took that function to ensure the proper prudent behavior of the banks and uh, even the non-banks, right? So that is also an important function performed by a central bank in this evolutionary process. They act as lender of last resort. Lender of last resort means when the banks are under trouble, financially stressed. Uh, in the past, at the beginning, actually governments were required to support them. right? In order to ensure that the financial system is secure and not destabilized, governments had to intervene and support. But as you know, governments are basically running with budget deficits. They are in tight situations. They cannot do it. And also, when this is happening in a large scale, government is in trouble. And also, government does not have expertise for that matter. So as a result, what really has happened, this function was basically came into the central bank, last resort function. Bank supervisor, I already mentioned, the central bank is monitoring, supervising the banking system to ensure the stability. The last one is the most important one, monetary policy conduct. Now, originally, central banks were basically setting up money supply. As a result, the interest rates were basically affected. But the monetary policy function became very prominent for the central bank in 20th century, especially during the World War and developments afterwards. And as the entire world talk about stabilization of the economy, which means without having much volatility in the business cycle, for that matter, most of the governments and central banks, they relied on the monetary policy as a stabilization policy in the latter part of 20th century. So for that matter, in today's context, central banks have become uh, key monetary policy conductors. Key in the sense they are the prime, only monetary policy conductors in the economy. Government allocates that function to the central bank, but it performs in a way kind of maintaining some independence and their own frameworks and judgment in line with the government policy framework and without basically not conflicting with the government's framework. So the monetary policy has become, as I said, an important function through this evolutionary process. If you look at the objectives and functions of the central banks in the history, central banks, because of these functions, as I already mentioned, historically they focus on two aspects. Central banks. One aspect is stability. One aspect is development. Now, these two, if you look at the meaning, you will see these two have some different objectives. Stability means you're trying to ensure that economy does not have large volatility. Volatility comes from economic expansion, we call them as booms, or economic downturns, we call them as busts. This boom bust of a business cycle generates some volatility in the economy. That volatility is generally not accepted or not preferred by an economy because that generates some losses, welfare losses. In the booms, people income go up, employment goes up. That is beneficial. In the downturns, people income goes down. Even their per capita income is affected, and the employment opportunities are lost. So as a result, stability has an important uh, element to avoid the business cycles in the economy. So every economy uh, try to have a stable environment without hurting their citizen. So historically, central banks were focusing to maintain this stability. That stability can be in various ways. Could be price stability, could be money stability, could be external stability, could be financial system stability. So stability has broad aspects But in general, central banks wanted to keep stability in their hand. Not only that, the other objective, they wanted to support development. Central banks are basically acting as development partners. Uh, what do you mean by development? In order to support development, the central bank should give more credit to the economy. It should facilitate more increase in money supply. It should facilitate low interest rates in the economy. If you need to have uh, development. So what does that mean? Mainly, you need to have some expansionary policy to support development. But if you look at closely, stability and development are conflicting. You cannot have both together. It's very difficult. Why? Stability means you are basically avoiding the business cycle. Probably you might have to cut money supply. You might have to increase interest rate. Remember in our monetary policy discussion, how the central bank controls high growth and high inflation by raising interest rate. If central bank wants to maintain low inflation, central bank might reduce money supply. That is stability objective. But it is affecting development. If you want to develop more, you have to give more credit at low interest. So these two objectives are considered as conflicting objectives of a central bank, stability and development together. But central banks are trying to make a balance between. That's a different thing. Sometimes central banks are making choices between two. It's a possibility, but you cannot have both together with equal importance in the central banking activity. So as a result, gradually central banks focused change. Now modern central banks mainly focus on stability. They support development. They have the development goal in mind, but it's not a direct or important job for the central bank. Main job for the central bank is stability. They want to maintain stability in the economy given by their mandate. Mandate means in the law of the central bank, most of the law, they have basically assigned this function to the central bank, stability function. So what are these two stability areas? Price stability and financial system stability. Now, I think I discussed this financial system stability and price stability even in the context of discussing monetary policy to some extent. So, may I request you to look at the price stability and financial system stability and give your own definition. What do you feel by listening to these two concepts, financial system stability and price stability? So let's try to answer if someone have some idea what do you mean by this. You can use the chat function or you can give me the answer. What do you mean by price stability and financial system stability?
Uh, so I feel this price stability when it is in the low prices, the consumer also having a more purchasing power, and when it's a tighten in the during situation, they are pricing consumer interesting also gone down. Anyway, if it is a grocery grocery items, we have to do. Another thing, financial stability also the same. When it comes to the development, it's gone down. The tighten situation. If it is a relaxed situation, that also gone up.
I see. Yes, let's discuss. I see some answers here. Price stability, avoid huge fluctuations of exchange rates. Not particularly exchange rate actually, because when we talk about price stability, we talk about domestic prices, right? Exchange rate is basically we talk about external stability, external price stability. But in general, price stability means the domestic price stability. I see some answers. Netme's answer, Hansini, Pratibha. Yeah, most of you have given, I mean, broadly similar or some consistent answers. So let me very simply give you an idea about all this price stability and financial system. Price stability means maintaining low and stable inflation rates in the economy. Low and stable rates of inflation in the economy. Inflation should be low because price stability is measured using the inflation rate, right? You can't measure it now. When you say price stability, how do you measure it? You have to look at a certain indicator. Indicator is the inflation rate. So if you can maintain inflation at low levels and stable levels, somebody has written without wide fluctuations. That is correct. A situation where there is no wide fluctuations in general price levels, as Kasuni mentioned. So when you do it, inflation rate would be low and also it will be stable. That is the idea of price stability. Why it is important? As somebody has said, it is important to safeguard the value of currency. If money is basically losing the value due to high inflation, that's a concern. So in order to safeguard the value of money, you have to have low and stable inflation. That is the idea of price stability. It has many benefits. I think we discussed last week in the monetary policy discussion. Financial system stability means the ability of the financial system to withstand domestic and external shocks. Okay, the ability of the financial system to resist or withstand domestic and internal shocks. In other words, we might call it the resilience of the financial system for the shocks. What are the shocks? Shocks can be coming from outside. For example, now global crisis, high prices, commodity prices, collapses in banks in elsewhere. Those are some external shocks. Internal shocks means basically low economic growth, issues in the economy, right? All these things are some vulnerabilities of the financial system. If the financial system and the banking system is resilient for these shocks, then you can call it financial system is stable. So in short, the ability of the financial system to resist or withstand internal and external shocks without having major disruptions to the financial system. Clear? Any questions? I hope it's clear. Anything did you missed out? Someone asked, are there any other aspect which the central bank focus on except these two? Now, there are actually, even in modern context, some central banks, they are looking at the development aspect as well for job creation, for high growth. Some central banks have those objectives in their mandate, but mostly majority of central banks, they are much into these two objectives: price stability and financial stability. Okay, clear, Achala? Any other questions? Right. Can we move to the slides back? You can see my slides, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, now we have some understanding about the role of modern central banks, or the key objective of modern central banks, that is to maintain stability. It could be price stability and financial system stability. Even this stability includes, although we do not discuss, the exchange rate stability, the external sector stability, all are actually covered. Now, what happens is, when a central bank maintains this price stability and financial system stability, that will be ensuring, or that will be helpful to achieve macroeconomic stability, the broad stability of the economy, macroeconomic stability. Now, to achieve these objectives, their focus, what do they do? So here they have a number of functions to achieve such objectives. For example, how do they achieve price stability? They implement monetary policy to have low inflation. We already know what is low inflation, monetary policy, and why low inflation is important. And also, the central banks are maintaining foreign exchange and reserves. That is also part of price stability. I told you that external stability. External stability is basically reflected in the stability in the exchange rate. For that matter, they have to have enough foreign exchange maintained, reserves are there. Central banks are doing that function. I will be discussing these in detail when we come to our experience, right? Central Bank of Sri Lanka, how it performs these functions. And then I already mentioned to you, the central banks are acting as the banker to the government, banker to the banks. Even they perform the lender of last resort function, which means when the banks are in trouble, they can get some support from the central bank. These are related to financial system stability. Even regulating and supervising the banks and non-banks, that is related to financial system stability. Central banks are supporting the financial market developments, introducing new products, introducing new methodologies, expanding the markets, uh, introducing some guidelines. All these are related to financial system stability. And also, especially, every central bank, they are supporting or maintaining a payment system that is very important for effective functioning of the economy. How the transactions are done, how the payments are made, how these fund transferring for purchasing goods and services done, how the securities are transacted, the settlement process, new innovations, all these are related to effective and efficient payment system. So that is also part of financial system stability. So if you look at what I have mentioned here is a list of functions of the central bank, a modern central bank. So these list of functions, if you look at broadly, can be classified into price stability and financial system stability. But again, as some central banks have other functions as well. For example, giving credit to banks, supporting the regional development. Even we do, right? Those are some deviations from price stability or financial system stability objective. Coming from the past, or we call it legacy issue, still certain central banks perform some development related oriented functions. But what we are saying is the major focus is on stability and related functions. Clear? Any questions to be raised before I move to the context of Central Bank of Sri Lanka? No? Okay. Let's move on. Now, we look at the context of Central Bank of Sri Lanka. Now, in Sri Lanka, the major or the apex financial institution is the central bank. You call it the prime financial institution in the financial system. It was established under a specific law. You call it Monetary Law Act. So Monetary Law Act number 58 of 1949 is the basis or the legal background for a central bank in Sri Lanka. So that provides the legal power to establish a central bank and administer or regulate the monetary system in Sri Lanka. So who drafted this law, or who was the pioneer in establishing a central bank in the Sri Lankan context? One called Mr. John Nexter, who was an expert or an economist from the Federal Reserve System. I think he came to Sri Lanka at the age of 37, very young. So he studied the financial system in Sri Lanka, monetary system in Sri Lanka, and he came up with this proposal. There's a famous report called Exeter Report. So through the Exeter Report, he suggested establishing a central bank in Sri Lanka. So this Exeter Report was the basis to draft the Monetary Law Act. So Monetary Law Act was drafted and it was passed in the Parliament in 1949. And then the Monetary Law Act was enacted in the sense implemented to establish the Central Bank of Sri Lanka. So the Central Bank of Sri Lanka, then it was called Central Bank of Ceylon. It started its operations in 1950. Okay, so basically 70 years back, Central Bank of Sri Lanka started its operations. Now, I have included two pictures, important pictures here. The left one is the picture of Mr. John Nexter. I think he died in 2011 or 12. He came to Sri Lanka twice, I think. When he was around, I think, late 90s, he died. But he was the first governor to the Central Bank of Sri Lanka, being the pioneer. And then the second picture is the central bank building. now it's located in this building in Colombo 1, next to the president's house on the Chatham Strait, on the Janadipati Mawata. Originally, it was not in this place. There were some other places, but now the central bank is permanently located here. Only difference with this picture now, in the behind, you don't see these uh, blue waters, which means the Indian Ocean you can't see in this way. Now, what do you see behind? Behind the central bank on the ocean? Any guess?
Port City.
Port City.
Port City, yes. Port City was, I think, basically now most of the land filling is now done. Even the buildings are being constructed. Now the view is completely different behind the central bank. So this is some, earlier versions of the picture. But this is the place we have this central bank Sri Lanka. There are some regional offices, but main operations are carried out in this building. What are the objectives of the Central Bank of Sri Lanka? Originally, Central Bank had many objectives. In the 1950s, when it was starting operations, it has many objectives related to both development and stability. Like in the other central bank's case, there were broad objectives. So I think, if I remember, there were 4-5 objectives for the central bank at the beginning. When we were doing A levels, I remember in relation to central bank objectives, we had to write, I think, 4 or 5 objectives, a list. But right now, we only have 2 key objectives to be specified. So there was a revision to the Monetary Law Act in 2002, the amended version. With this amendment, the objectives of the central bank was limited to key objectives related to stability. So what are these 2 objectives? Economic and price stability and financial system stability. Okay. Now we already know what do you mean by this price stability and financial system stability. I have given you the definitions here now. Now you can, I think, double check your definitions that you have already written. So the objective is to maintaining economic and price stability and maintaining financial system stability. You should also read the second sentence, with a view to encouraging and promoting the development of productive resources of Sri Lanka. So that part indicates why does the central bank achieve these first 2 objectives? To support the development process. I hope you remember I mentioned to you, price stability is important for growth. And also we know financial system stability is important for growth. Without having the stability in the prices or the financial system, you cannot have growth and development. So these are like preconditions for growth and development. What the central bank is doing is achieving 2 important conditions which are crucial for development and growth. Okay, I hope it's clear. Now, if you look at the structure of the central bank, organization of the central bank, I'm just referring to this diagram. If you look at this, the Supreme Board or Supreme institution of the central bank is the Monetary Board. I'll come back to the composition of the Monetary Board in a while. So Monetary Board is the governing board. They basically give some guidance, does policy making by looking at various developments and information. So the Monetary Board is the governing board. Then there is a CEO CEO is the governor of the central bank, and he is also the chairman of the monetary board. So governor is basically acting acting as a CEO for day-to-day operations. Now, if you look at the organizational structure, there are a number of departments at the central bank, closer to 30 departments at the central bank. They are basically into four areas, four business areas, like economic policy, which means related to price stability, and then financial system stability, related to uh, financial sector regulation and supervision, and also capacity building and support services, and also agency services of the central bank to the government. Those are some key areas. Those are the business areas of the central bank, uh, based on these different departments. To oversee that, there are three deputy governors. Deputy Governor 1 related to economic policy, which means price stability. Deputy Governor 2 is overseeing financial sector. Deputy Governor 3 looking at the capacity service and also some agency related functions. So three deputy governors are there. Under them, there are a number of assistant governors, department heads, and that is the structure. And also there are some independent committees, like in a commercial bank, the audit committee is independent, risk management and compliance department is independent. They are directly reporting to the upper management and the monetary board. So this is the organizational structure. Monetary board is the body corporate. Body corporate means they are the supreme board of the central bank, because central bank is not a legal entity, right? If you want to file a case against the central bank, you cannot sue the central bank. You have to sue the monetary board. Monetary board is the body corporate, right? So why it is the body corporate is the governing body who is responsible for making policy decisions related to the management and operations and administration of the central bank, right? So central bank is operated based on the guidance and policy decisions made by the monetary board. It has 5 members, including the governor. Governor, as I already mentioned, chairman and the CEO of the central bank. And there we have the Secretary of the Finance, Minister of Finance. He is an ex officio member. Ex officio means he is coming out of his official capacity. So it's an official appointment, automatic appointment. That's why you call it ex officio. Secretary to the Minister of Finance, and 3 non-executive members. 3 members are basically represented by the private sector mainly, and experts in banking, accounting, financing, economics, law related areas. So those are, and even some business leaders with some expertise, right? So those are appointed by the president on the recommendation of the Minister of Finance and as approved by the Constitutional Council. So this 5-member monetary board, you can see, is the supreme body of the central bank. Now let's look at the functions of the central bank. Now we already know there are 2 key objectives related to financial system stability and price stability. So functions are also reflecting those key objectives. So these key objectives are covered under the core functions of the central bank. If you look at the word here, core functions. Core means main functions or prime functions, key functions of the central bank. So what are these key functions? The first 3 indicates functions related to monetary policy, which means price stability. What are these functions? Conducting monetary policy, conducting exchange rate policy, and managing official international reserves. So if you want to write here, you can put a bracket and see write related to price stability function. Okay. And the next functions given in red color, oversight of the financial system. Sometimes you call it macroprudential surveillance. Then licensing, regulating, and supervising of banks and non-bank finance. Here, I think there's a mistake. This word, not selecting, selected, right? Selected non-bank financial institutions. Selected means not all. There are some institutions not supervised by the central bank. So that's why you call it selected. So licensing, regulating, supervising banks and non-bank institutions. Provision of payment facilities and regulation of the payment system. That is also part of the functions. Issue and distribution of national currency. Currency is really important to facilitate financial transactions, and it's a real important commodity to the economy to support the economic activity. So that currency is also provided by the central bank. So all these four functions you can broadly include under functions related to financial system stability. And I have separated out two other functions which are related to both the monetary policy and also the price stability and also financial system stability. What are these two separate things I have mentioned? Compiling and disseminating data and statistics. To have an effective conduct of policies and to make aware of the general public, you should have very good data and statistics. So central bank does it, as I already shown to you on the website, and also in its publications, a lot of information is disseminated. Last one, acting as the banker and financial advisor to the government. So central bank is the banker to the government and also advisor to the government on finance matters. That is also related to the achieving the stability objective of the central bank. Then central bank is performing some other function. Someone asked me, whether the central bank's role is limited to those two objectives. Are there any objectives? Yes. They are not co-objectives. There are some additional roles played by the central bank to support the government. We call them as agency functions. Okay? Agency means you are acting on behalf of someone. So what are these agency functions? Central bank is managing the public debt of the country. I'll explain these in detail in upcoming slides. So central bank is basically supporting the government in managing their debt. That's one of the key roles. Then central bank is basically supporting the government for foreign exchange management. So foreign exchange management is basically not a direct function of the central bank. Exchange rate is directly relevant, but foreign exchange, the money, is not directly relevant to the central bank function. It is performed as an agency function. Central bank is also looking after the employees' provident fund management and acting as the custodian for the EPF. We'll talk about this in a while. Facilitating financial inclusion is also a role of the central bank. There you can write as actually regional development. The fourth one is related to facilitating regional development activities. Last one, financial intelligence services is carried out by the central bank as an agency function. For what purposes? To prevent money laundering and terrorist financing. Those are also important agency functions performed on behalf of the government. Let's move on. Let's start with core functions, right? Obviously, we start with maintaining economic and price stability, which means conducting monetary policy. We know from our discussions previous week as well, monetary policy is used to achieve price stability, which means low and stable inflation. How does the central bank achieve this price stability objective? Through conducting monetary policy. Under monetary policy, we can observe that the central bank is setting interest rates. Remember, the policy interest rates are set up by the central bank, and it manages the liquidity in the economy. How does the central bank manage liquidity? I hope you remember, it conducts open market operations. So setting up policy rates and managing liquidity through open market operations, it comes under monetary policy. And we know in Sri Lanka, the Central Bank of Sri Lanka is basically trying to achieve its objective under our enhanced monetary policy framework. I told you we are basically looking into a flexible inflation targeting framework. Our main monetary policy framework or our guiding principle to achieve price stability is a kind of a flexible inflation targeting framework where we directly look at a certain level of inflation. What is the inflation band that we are looking at? 4 to 6%. So central bank is trying to keep inflation within 4 to 6%. That's why we call it flexible inflation targeting, while keeping some stable conditions in the real economy. Whenever we achieve our price stability objective, we don't want to disturb the real economy growth. So that is also kind of a concern for the central bank. And how it is done, basically, from our policy tools to inflation, how this is transmitted, we are trying to guide short-term interest rates in the economy. I told you last week also, the central bank is having this corridor, and in the middle of the corridor, we have another interest rate called average weighted call money rate, AWCMR. So maintaining AWCMR is basically, as per the central bank decision, is to achieve our inflation objective. That is the key interest rate that we can directly control in the market. Any other market rate, the central bank cannot control. So we can only control the short-term interest rate, that is the call rate. So we call it the operating target of the central bank. I hope you remember these terms I used last week as well, a week before. So central bank is basically manipulating or changing the operating target to guide the short-term interest rates and also to have an impact on broader interest rate. We cannot control them directly, but we can have an impact. Banks' interest rates are basically affected by the central bank interest rates. So to have it, the central bank use policy instruments. I hope you remember we discussed these policy instruments in detail. We talk about policy interest rates such as standing facility rates. The lower bound is the standing deposit facility rate. Upper bound is the standing lending facility rate. I hope you remember. We also talk about open market operations. Open market operations are used to absorb money or to inject money. Remember, we have discussed this thing in detail. And we also talk about reserve requirements, how the central bank set up the statutory reserve kept at the central bank in order to have an impact on the economy, banking sector. And also we have the moral suasion, other instruments like the bank rate, quantitative restrictions on credit, ceilings on interest rates, forex transactions. We talk about these things in the multiple discussion. And other than that, the central bank also uses macroprudential tools to ensure the broader stability in the monetary system and the economy and the financial system as well. I'm not going to define these things because I discussed them in detail in the previous lectures. So if you have not attended, it's better you look at the videos because I have already defined and discussed those things in detail. Now on the chart, we have the rates in Sri Lanka, and I mentioned to you recently with the monetary policy review statement, there are some changes to these interest rates. Now, what are the current policy rates? Can someone tell me with the recent changes?
Standing lending facility rate 6%, standing deposit facility rate is 5%.
5%, exactly. So the lower bound of this chart, the shaded area, if you come to this part, now what we have seen since 2018, interest rates have come down. The band has come down towards the lower end of the chart. But now what has happened? Now this band has been increased. We will discuss what are the reasons and how it has happened. So now it has been increased while maintaining the same gap between the corridor, in the corridor. So now what is the lower bound? As mentioned, standing deposit facility rate is 5%. Upper bound is standing lending facility is 6%. 5% and 6%. So if you have a question, what are the current SLFR and SDFR rate? 6% and 5%. Now we know with that there is an automatic adjustment in what?
Bank rate.
Bank rate, exactly. So now what is the current bank rate?
9%.
Sorry?
9%.
9%. Yes, we have a margin of 3% with the SLFR. So SLFR 6%, margin 3% means bank rate now 9%. And in the latest monetary policy review, there was another change was introduced. What was that?
SRR,
SRR. SRR means, how do you define it?
statutory reservation.
Statutory reserve ratio, which indicates the amount of money kept at the central bank by commercial banks, isn't it? Now, recently, the central bank has decided to raise that as well, which means now commercial banks are required to keep more money with the central bank. Now, what is the current rate?
4%.
4%. Earlier,
2%.
2%. Now, what is your guess when this rate is increased from 2% to 4%? What will happen?
Monetary policy has tightened up
Monetary policy tightened, exactly. How
Um,
do you say it is tightened?
because the lending capacity of the commercial banks has been reduced.
Reduce. Why it is reducing now?
Because they have to deposit more money kept
Yes,
with the central bank.
exactly. Earlier, banks had more money with them to keep or to lend to the customers, isn't it? Now, if let's say if you deposit 100 rupees in a bank, earlier banks were only required to keep 2 rupees at the central bank. So they were able to lend 98 rupees to the customers. Now what has happened? The central bank has introduced or increased the interest rate, SRR rate. As a result, now banks are only able to keep 96 rupees with them. They have to keep 4% at the central bank. So what has happened? Their lending ability has reduced by 2 rupees, isn't it? Now what will happen now? Remember our discussion on money multiplier? So now money multiplier gets reduced, no? So you can calculate the multiplier also. Earlier, remember our money multiplier was how much? 1 divided by 2% means roughly money multiplier was 50, isn't it? Now SRR is 4% means our money multiplier is now roughly how much? 25, isn't it? 1 divided by 4%. So it has reduced sharply. So that was the changes introduced to the rates recently. So I think before your exam, I don't know whether there will be another policy review. Probably there will be in October, but I think this is one of the major changes. So you have to revise all your rates everywhere related to this policy change. So you have to write the new numbers if you answer in your exam papers. Policy rates are 5% and 6%. Bank rate is 9%. SRR is 4%. Okay. All these are discussed in the press release. I really recommend, at least you haven't done it by now, please read the press release today because I'm going to discuss it next week once we complete the discussion on central bank. Okay. So it's really essential. Then next function is actually the exchange rate conduct of the central bank. Now, exchange rate is one of the key variables that we have some concern, especially these days we see some, upward movements in the exchange rate, and central bank is basically, having some concerns on the pressures on the exchange market. So I think since we do not have enough time left, we only have 10 minutes. I really like to have some, kind of an explanation on the exchange rate movements and what are the factors behind. So probably we will postpone it to the next week. Start the next week discussion from this point onwards. So you have to do something, as I said. Please look at the press release of the central bank, okay, on monetary policy review, and also I think you have some idea about chapter 7. You have already discussed chapter 7 in certain instances. I really recommend you start reading chapter 8 of the annual report. Chapter 8 of the annual report is related to financial markets, financial institutions, infrastructure, related stuff. I think what we are discussing here related to the central bank and also other financial institutions are basically covered in chapter 8. So please start reading it if you have time. But before you come to the next class, please read the press release. Then we will be very comfortable when we discuss it. Okay. Any questions?